Plami, and in this episode of Plami Thoughts On, I'm gonna be sharing my thoughts on the 4th episode of the 11th and final season of The Walking Dead. I believe the episode is called Rendition, but correct me if I'm wrong, and I definitely have some interesting things to say about this episode, because I'm kind of in two minds about it. Because, and I'm gonna be completely honest here, when I first watched the episode, I kinda hated it, or at least I didn't enjoy it at all. Um, it felt slow and boring, and there was barely anything that was able to really keep my attention. There were some cool scenes for sure, but most of the time it was just slow and boring dialogue that was just expositioning stuff about the characters. Or the other half of the time, I wasn't able to really understand what that one important character in this episode was saying. And I'm gonna get to who I'm talking about in a little bit, but if you watch the episode, you know who I'm talking about. So, I don't know, it really wasn't an enjoyable episode for me as I was watching it, because it also felt like something we've done like 10 times before. Like, a lot of people have pointed out on the subreddit, and I already kind of felt that, but those people kind of voiced that opinion before I was able to realize that I had that opinion. But this is literally that one episode from season 7, back when Negan was first introduced and Negan was captured by Daryl was captured by the Saviors. It's the Cell all over again, only kind of worse. Although I can't really say whether it's worse or not until I've probably rewatched the whole series, which is what I'm gonna be doing once season 11 is done. I'm gonna be watching the whole series and reviewing every single episode of it. So definitely you can you can be excited for that whenever that happens. But yeah, so yeah, I'm very much in two minds about this episode, because at first it was bad, but honestly, ever since I watched the episode, it's kind of started to grow on me a little bit more. I still don't really think it was a great episode, but for some reason, at least it feels like more of a complete episode. And I think that is because this episode was solely and completely focused on one character and telling one story. And for some reason, that seems to be something that I enjoy nowadays with The Walking Dead, more than having an episode be about multiple storylines. Like, I don't know why, but that seems to be what I'm enjoying the most, because I love that aspect about Fear the Walking Dead's 6th season. That was kind of also the case for World Beyond's 1st season, especially the second half. Every single episode got a focus on a certain character. So, I don't know, I guess that's why it's starting to grow on me, because it felt like a more of a complete story, maybe. Like, I enjoyed episode 1, I enjoyed episode 2 especially. Episode 3, I think it's my least favorite so far, but it's definitely not the worst. I still think this one is the worst we've gotten so far, but those episodes just kind of felt a little bit more unsure of exactly what they're doing with themselves. Or maybe that's just my impression. I just don't know exactly what they were trying to do with these episodes. They didn't feel like thought through and complete in some ways. This one just feels like a complete story, even though it's something that we've seen a couple of times, and I couldn't even understand half of what was being said in this episode. It just felt more complete, and I appreciate that about it a lot, actually. And that's why I feel like on a rewatch it's gonna be even more enjoyable, because whenever I'm rewatching them for the reviews, I'm almost definitely gonna be watching the episodes with subtitles. So yeah, because like, I personally choose to watch things for the first time without subtitles, because for some reason when I'm watching without subtitles, I'm focusing more on the actual quality of the episodes, I feel like, and like just trying to get what is happening visually. I don't know, for some reason like subtitles distract me, and I feel like I'm able to enjoy the episodes more without the subtitles, or at least on the first watch I'm able to soak everything in better without subtitles. So yeah, okay, so where was I? So yeah, honestly, I can't really go through this episode as I usually do, bit by bit. At least I feel like, because there isn't much, or at least a similar type of cool scenes in this episode that I kind of want to point out about how much I like this and this and this. There's a couple, but by and large, it was a very uh, flat episode in that regard. There wasn't really any high moments where I was like excited and enjoying the scenes for what they were. I feel like most of the enjoyment for me kind of comes from that whole experience of the episode, not really from single specific point. So yeah, there's something that I really want to talk about when it comes to this episode, but I feel like maybe we should first kind of get through the episode and what happens, because it's something really interesting, because it also kind of happened in one of those episodes in season 10C. So it's interesting that those things are also happening for this review as it did for that one episode, but I'm gonna get to that in a sec. So, getting into the episode. First, we open up with, again, the opening scene of last episode where everybody gets attacked by the Reapers. It was interesting that we saw things from Darrow's perspective a little bit more in this episode, but I don't know, it feels a little like they didn't really add much to that. They could have just shown us Dario running through the woods right after he escapes into the woods after the attack happens, because that's what the last we see from him in episode 3. So they could have just continued from there and not shown us those 20 seconds. I mean, I don't know if it was even 20 seconds of him getting attacked, because it was literally what we already saw. But yeah, he runs away apparently and gets chased by the Reapers still, just like Maggie was. Although for him, it continues right afterwards, like during the night and not during the day. He has a cool scene in which he escapes from a bunch of Reapers by throwing a rock and distracting them. That felt very Last of Us, in my opinion, so that was kind of fun. Although, there's a little bit of a dumb detail that if you kind of noticed, it makes it a little bit stupid how he gets away. But at first, when you first watch the scene, you don't really notice it. But when I was watching reactions of people for this episode, I noticed how Dog and Daryl clearly create a shadow that the Reaper that was coming on the pathway on the side of the wall could have easily noticed the shadows, because they were clearly moving, but he didn't. But again, it's shadows, it's during the night, he was wearing a mask. I can kind of buy that he didn't notice the shadows. It just makes what Daryl did a little bit dumber, in a way. But yeah, afterwards, I think he continues to get chased by Reapers in the forest, and he even gets attacked by one. Has a little bit of a fight that I enjoyed, although we didn't really get to see much of it. It was still a cool face-off against the two. It showed that Daryl, who is usually a pretty tough guy who knows how to fight, like he fucking defeated Beta with his smartness, he has a very hard time defeating the Reapers. It definitely makes them a little bit more threatening. And even Dog has to help him, which is which ends up in Dog being thrown down a hill, which I'm pretty sure it doesn't kill him, because I'm pretty sure we do see Dog afterwards. But still, it's kind of cheap how they made us worried about Dog in the trailer when it was clearly voiced over, but I kind of already knew that. Then in one of the following scenes, it's really cool once the fight between Daryl and the Reaper stops. Daryl just gets up and throws a knife back at the Reapers. That was pretty cool as well. I love how he's kind of adapting to their ways, I guess, and doing the same things they do. It kind of makes more sense, especially with the storyline of this episode, as a way to show how not so different Daryl is from them, even in the ways he fights. So that was pretty cool. And obviously, in one following scene, we get reintroduced to Leah. Although for some reason she looks significantly older. Like, she straight up has gray hair, or at least it looked gray to me. Because when we saw her back in 10C in episode 18, she very much had, it was orange? She was ginger, right? I'm pretty sure she was. So, obviously that was a few years ago, but I still don't think she would have gray hair, is what I'm trying to say, I guess. So yeah, as we have Daryl and Leah meet each other, obviously Daryl gets captured by a bunch more Reapers, and he gets taken to their place. Um, and here, that's kind of what makes the rest of the episode a little cliche, especially for The Walking Dead, because, again, this is literally just the Cell all over again. It's just that it's like the Cell all over again, but with fundamental differences, because in the Cell we had Daryl not be willing to submit to Negan and not buy his way through and lie his way through to get close to the Pope and the Reapers, and not being willing to... Sorry, I got confused. In the Cell, Daryl wasn't willing to submit to Negan, even for a plan to take him down. But in this episode, we have Daryl do exactly that. So that's a really fun parallel, which is something that this episode actually has a lot of. There's a lot of parallels. Some that I've actually wanted to mention, even in the last 2 or 3 reviews, that now I'm convinced it's an intentional parallel, but we're gonna get to that. So the fundamental differences that this episode has compared to the Cell is that, again, those things that Daryl actually tries to lie his way through, and he manages to lie his way through, but also how, even right off the bat, Daryl is already being smart, and by counting how many Reapers there are, even as he's being dragged away. That's a really cool attention to detail. So that's one of the first things that kind of made me reconsider my feelings for this episode, because it can't really be genuinely that bad of an episode if the showrunners are paying such an attention to detail, you know? Because if you pay such an attention to detail to have be shown that Daryl is counting how many Reapers there are, you clearly care, and even if you haven't executed the story properly, I still appreciated you for trying, you know? But yeah, so Daryl gets taken and gets tortured, and honestly, I'm really curious, I would really be curious to know which torturing session Daryl considers worse. This one by the Reapers, in which he gets fucking waterboarded, or the Easy Street by Negan? Because to me, I feel like waterboarding is worse. Because like, as tired as I may be, and without clothes and everything, I feel like I can go through what Daryl went through with Negan. I can go through that. But I don't know if I can go through waterboarding. It's just too fucking terrible. I just cannot. So I really like how during the interrogation, Daryl quickly makes up a lie, a convincing lie even, saying that he just met the group recently and that he traded with them and that he only knew them less than a week. And I love how he even says, kill me if you want, I got nothing else to say. Because sometimes, and I've even kind of done that myself when I've lied, that willingness to go as far as to say that you have nothing else to add to what you've already said, and makes you feel like you're backed against a wall, and that kind of makes your lie a little bit more convincing. Because, I mean, they can torture him all they want, but how could they know whether he's telling the truth or not? That's the thing about torture, and what makes torture not really usable, you know? Because torture, even by organizations like the FBI and CSA and whatever, has been said that it doesn't work. It doesn't really bring the results you want, because anybody would say anything just to stop being tortured. So how can you know whether Daryl is telling the truth or not? The best way to gauge that is by his willingness to go through the torturing at best. And even then you can't really be sure. So when you say that you can kill him if you want because he can't say anything else, it kind of makes his lie more believable in a way. Maybe I just feel so, but maybe it's just me who thinks like that. But I just really like that scene. It kind of shows how he's willing to die for his group, and I like that. I like that aspect. Okay, so let me see what was the next scene. I think after this he gets dragged off to a cell, in which also find out what happened to one of Maggie's people, Frost, who I don't remember whether he had a line or not before. Maybe he had one or two in Asheron Part 2, because I'm pretty sure he didn't have a line in Asheron Part 1. But yeah, he's one of Maggie's guys, and obviously he recognizes Daryl, so Daryl has to pretend that he doesn't know him, or that he only knew him for like a week, so they're not buddies, they're not close to everything. And he even kinda speaks in code to him to show him that he's not on the Reaper's side, and he's not betrayed them, but he's trying to protect them by not revealing information. But to me, the way that Daryl says, "Got it? We're not buddies. Just because we shared a pack of grain, we're not buddies." Like the way he just kept saying, "You hear me? You got it?" Kind of made it so fucking obvious that he's lying, because he's trying to say to Frost that he needs to shut up, because otherwise they'll realize that Daryl is fucking lying. And I honestly can't believe the Reaper spotted, but I guess they're kind of stupid. I don't know. And yeah, I gotta say, I really like the aspect of the Reapers that is their numbers. Because apparently, and maybe that has been mentioned before, because I actually didn't remember any time where it was mentioned how many Reapers there are, but in this episode we learned that there's only 14 Reapers right now, because there are a bunch of mercenaries who used to fight in Afghanistan, which I gotta say, it's kind of funny what a coincidence this mention of Afghanistan and mercenaries is to be done at this point in time with the world context that we have. But it was really funny, and I've seen some people be confused or hate the storyline with Leah, because apparently it doesn't make sense to them, because she is with the Reapers, but apparently they are her family. I feel like a lot of people, because they hated episode 18, which was the episode in which Leah was introduced, with episode 18 of last season. A lot of people hated that episode, so I feel like a lot of them didn't really pay attention to her storyline and her backstory, I guess, should I say, that she mentioned in that episode, how she had a squad. She specifically said a squad who she got separated from, and in this episode we are being told by her that her squad found her, and they actually never stopped looking for her. So once they found her again, she went back with them. So it's clearly that it's that squad, especially because in this episode she mentions how she used to be a mercenary with them before the apocalypse. And maybe I just paid that attention to that, or remember that, because one of my favorite YouTube reactor channel, Blind Wave, if you have not subscribed to them or haven't watched their videos, you definitely should, because they're fucking great reactors, probably the best out there in my opinion. They speculated and theorized that her squad was the Reapers. I kind of thought it was dumb, because I didn't really expect to see Leah again after this episode, or at least not with the Reapers. But I guess now it makes sense why they would have that, because usually whenever The Walking Dead introduces a group of baddies that are actually gonna have some bit of focus, and they're not gonna be just like B-level villains, they always have a character from that group that we know and that we're involved in, so we actually care about the storyline because of that character. So of course they had Leah be involved with the Reapers, but that's, I guess, the reason why I remembered that, because some people speculated that would be the case, that she's gonna be a part of the Reapers. Although, again, I thought it was stupid and very unlikely, but here we are. So yeah, to those people who thought this was dumb and didn't make sense, if you're watching this video, it did make sense. You should probably just pay a little bit more attention. I can't blame you for not paying attention in this episode, because I've probably missed a lot of stuff in the dialogue in this episode, because it was fucking boring a lot of the time, and I just couldn't be arsed to, especially without subtitles. But yeah, it was mentioned. You just really didn't catch it, I guess. So yeah, in the following scene, Daryl is about to meet the Pope. I'm pretty sure. I'm hopefully not skipping something important, but in one of the following scenes, Daryl is about to meet the Pope, but for some reason he and Leah get locked into the place he was interrogated in earlier with the waterboarding, or at least it looks like that place. I'm not sure whether it is though. But they get locked in that place, and some of the other Reapers spill gasoline on the ground underneath the door and then light it up. So everything catches on fire, and Daryl is trying very hard to find a way out, trying to break the boards on the windows and get out of the cage, but he at first is unable to until Leah points him to a thing that he can use, and then they both get out. I gotta say, for the most part, that scene looked fine. Like, the fire was clearly CGI, but they did use some kind of lightning or just a small fire to make the lightning actually look realistic, because you could clearly see in the shadows how the flames were actually flickering off of things and people. But there was at least one shot that was shown to us through the window in which it very much looked CGI'd in, or just like very much like green screened, I guess is the word I'm looking for. And it didn't take me out of the episode. Like I've said, I don't really like harping on CGI problems or whatever, because I'm not a person who really cares too much as long as it doesn't take me out of the story. But with this kind of review series, I kind of have to mention things that I've noticed about the episode. So if I noticed it, I'm probably gonna mention it, for better or for worse. Again, I'm not holding that against the episode. For me, focusing on the CGI over the quality of the story is a nitpick, so I don't really do that, you know. But yeah, so they both managed to get out, and it's quickly revealed that it was a test for Daryl. And then we have some actual decent effects when the place where Daryl was, that they just escaped from, starts to crumble apart because of the fire. That actually looked really cool, and I'm pretty convinced that that was practical effects, because it looked too good to be CGI. Especially on the Walking Dead universe's budget, because the CGI is really not their strong suit. Especially fucking nowadays, apparently. And yeah, it is a really cool scene in which all the Reapers stand and they say something in Latin, I believe, but I don't know what it was because I didn't watch with subtitles, so maybe some of you that watched with subtitles and know what they said could comment it down below so we all know. But yeah, it was a cool scene, I like that. And again, I just want to reiterate, I really like the aspect of the Reapers that is their numbers, because it makes them that much more threatening, and now it makes sense why those Reapers in the last episode managed to survive, or at least run away, because we actually find out that one of them didn't survive. The guy who got his head with a bottle, stabbed with a bottle, didn't manage to survive, while the other guy who got stabbed with a knife in the back and threw a flashbang grenade, he managed to survive, although he didn't manage to survive this episode. But yeah, so the fact that there's only 14 of them, and they were able to so easily take down such a big amount of our group, makes them that much more threatening, because usually with other groups, we are kind of kept vague with their actual numbers of people that they have. And I've always felt that that's kind of a weakness, because at least for us viewers, it's kind of a weakness because we can't really feel the actual weight of the threat that we're dealing with. At least with the Saviors, it was justified that we didn't know the number of them. We just know it was big, but we never really felt it properly. For me personally, I just really like not knowing the actual numbers, because it kind of ruins my suspension of disbelief in a way. It's also the same for just the general number of survivors that we have even in the communities, because I can't really buy right now that there are that many people living in Alexandria from the beginning, because apparently there still are, but I can't really buy it because we haven't seen those characters ever. It kind of feels like they kind of come out of nowhere for the sake of there being some characters in Alexandria. But yeah, I don't know. I just like the aspect that there's actual limited number of them, because that makes them more threatening, because when they die it will actually matter, because there's one less Reaper to deal with. And the fact that they're mercenaries also explains why they're so good at killing people, so I really like that as well. And yeah, in the following scene, obviously Dario actually meets the Pope, and that's the scene in which the Pope explains that they were in Afghanistan and that they're mercenaries and everything. But again, with the accent that the actor seems to have, I just couldn't fucking understand almost anything he was saying in this episode. I caught like maybe a few lines, like the line where he says that Leah has went on a fishing trip with her old boyfriend, and that old boyfriend just wants to get in her pants. That's probably my favorite line of Pope in this episode. And also, I almost forgot, there was an earlier scene in which we saw the body of that Reaper who got a bottle stabbed into his head by Maggie in the previous episode. We saw his body, and we saw that Pope was angry, and I really liked how the music in the background was kind of rising up. It really made for actually a surprisingly tense moment, because I was like, oh come on, you're really trying to tense up this situation which doesn't really have tension because of where the usual outbreak of the episode will be, and that they were doing it only because of that. But it genuinely felt kind of tense because he was angry that one of his people died, and he was angry at the people who killed him. And we actually still don't know why they are so adamant to kill Maggie and her group. It really feels more of a personal vendetta that they have against her. And we did have that Reaper back in episode 17 of last season say that the Pope marked her, but we still only have concrete information. At best, we can speculate that maybe she attacked him. And again, you can't really say she's unjustified because these guys are fucking insane, apparently. But yeah, I think Maggie might have brought that on to herself. And especially with the rest of the parallels that we have in this episode, I actually genuinely think that she might have picked a fight with the wrong group a long time ago. And now that I mentioned that specific line, and thinking back to the fact that this line was mentioned in the episode, I really believe that that's probably what it is. And I actually just came up with a really cool thing that I want to talk about, but we're gonna get there in a second. Let's just finish the recap of the episode. So, Pope and Daryl share a cigarette, and in the following scene, we have everybody around the campfire and eating and just hanging out, I guess. And then, for some reason, the Pope asks really weird questions to that one Reaper who managed to come back, who had a injury on his back because of the knife that Maggie threw. For some reason, Pope was angry with him, I guess, because his injuries were on his back. Because apparently he said that he fought with his brother right beside his brother. But his injuries, I guess, imply that he got stabbed in the back. Like, I don't quite understand his motivation for killing that character in the following scene by putting him in the fire. And by the way, I gotta say, it was a pretty gruesome death, and I really fucking liked it. We've never really seen a person get burned like that, so that looked really fucking gross and cool, and I really liked it. But I just don't really understand the motivations for that kill. I kind of agree with the opinion that most people seem to have about that scene, where it kind of feels forced, because we gotta show that this new bad guy is fucking insane because he killed one of his own people. But with the kind of I don't know what to call it, with the kind of theme that these groups seem to have in the first part of the episode, where it was all about family and how there's only 14 of us and we gotta protect each other. It really felt like a cool parallel to our group, where there's only a limited amount of people and we all fight together. We are family and we are willing to die for each other. It really felt like a really cool parallel to what we have to our main group, and especially to our main group from like season 5. I think the Reapers could have been a really cool group to have to fight in season 5, because it would have been the perfect parallel. Because like honestly, I feel like I can literally go back to that picture from season 5 that is very famous, of everybody walking on the road. I'm pretty sure we have seen that picture. And I'm pretty sure that if I count all the characters that are on that picture, there's probably 14 characters. You know what? I'm actually gonna do that. Be back in a second. I fucking called it. There is genuinely 14 characters in that picture. So you cannot fucking tell me that the Reapers were not, at least conceptually, created by molding them based on our group. Like, maybe not the individual characters or everything, although I find that that would have been actually really fucking cool if all the individual Reapers were kind of foils to our groups as characters from that point in time. But it definitely, it was really cool in that first half of the episode when they were kind of portrayed as this family of survivors who are willing to kill anybody and anything, and are very skilled at it, because that's kind of how we felt that our group was back in season 5. So that was a really cool idea. But then having the Pope kill that character just kind of feels like it comes out of nowhere, and it doesn't really bother me at the end of the day, but it just doesn't jive at all with what we learned about them in the rest of the episode, you know? But yeah, again, with all of the parallels that we have in this episode, I very much feel that it's another intentional parallel, because as a whole, this Reaper storyline really feels like I don't want to say rehash, because I don't think it's a rehash, but kind of like a foil storyline to back when the Saviors were introduced in Season 6. Because back then, in Season 6, the reason why we first ended up fighting the Saviors, our group ended up fighting the Saviors, was because they needed food. So they got involved with another group who was able to provide them with food if they fought this other group. And this is essentially what happened again. Our main community, Alexandria and co., needed food. The only way to get food is to go and fight the Reapers to protect this other community, aka the Meridian, who is where Maggie lives. So that was a cool parallel that I already kind of thought about a few episodes ago, like I think maybe as early as episode 1, but I just kind of now am convinced that it's definitely intentional. There's other parallels. I very much feel like the Pope is supposed to be a parallel to Negan in who he is, because the theatrics that the Reapers portray with the hanged bodies and everything, and showing how terrifying they are in their first reveal at the end of episode 2 and early in episode 3. It feels very reminiscent in the intensity and horror feel that we got in Last Day on Earth, which is the season 6 finale. The atmosphere definitely feels very similar to that. And even Negan points out that he knows this kind of theatrics. Like the show even tells you that it's supposed to be a foil or parallel storyline to what we had with the Saviors, because it seems like this first 8 episodes of season 11's storyline is all about Maggie and Negan. I don't know how it's going to end, whether they're gonna reconcile or whatever, but it definitely feels like that's what the storyline is. So the Reapers seem to very much be unintended villains for this storyline to complement it. They're not the main thing, they're kind of like a complementary thing. And because of that, I feel like I'm actually gonna now, going forward, enjoy the storyline more, because I now realize that the storyline is more about Negan and Maggie and not so much about the Reapers. They're just kind of like a seasoning on top of the main dish, I guess. So yeah, As I said earlier, it's really funny to me how this episode, which features Leah, is another episode which has a lot of parallels that I noticed and explained to you guys in the review, because I really loved doing that and pointing those parallels out in episode 18 of last season when she was introduced, and it's really funny to me that it happened again. It's really cool, also. So I definitely think that kill that the Pope committed is supposed to be a parallel to Negan, because Negan did kill one of his own, that doctor guy, by fire as well. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. I'm pretty sure that's everything about the episode. Ultimately, I think it was a fine episode. I think it's gonna be much better on rewatch, and as I said, it's already grown on me a lot. But and it feels more complete than the rest of the episodes we've gotten so far. But the fact that it doesn't really have the it moment in the episode, or at least it doesn't have peaks in the episode in terms of really entertaining and exciting moments that I would be excited to see people react to. I don't know, it just kind of felt a little underwhelming in that regard. But I feel like at this point I've kind of accepted that this final season of The Walking Dead is not going to be exactly what I wanted it to be, because personally, because this is like the final season and everything, I thought that they were going to go all out and every single episode was going to be this big and important episode, but it kind of feels like it's more of the same. It doesn't really feel as big and ambitious and important as it should be. I don't know if even ambitious is the right word to use. It just doesn't feel as heavy. It doesn't feel as impactful as it should be. It just kind of feels like par for the course with The Walking Dead, like kind of what season 10 was. It doesn't really, just don't really feel the impact of the show ending in these episodes, and that kind of bothers me, because we at this point have like only 20 episodes to go. Essentially, how long World Beyond was, 20 episodes, and I don't know. I think I'll be better able to judge how good this storyline was once it's passed and once the show is over. That's why I've decided that I'll be reviewing every single episode of the show once it's done and I've started to rewatch it. Even the episodes that I've reviewed, I'll definitely be doing re-reviews for those, because I feel like once I rewatch it, I'll have a better understanding of whether the quality is actually good or not. So yeah, I don't remember the ratings for the first 3 episodes. If you asked me now, I would give episode 1 8.6 out of 10, episode 2 9 out of 10, episode 3 I'll give it an 8.9 out of 10, and for this episode I'll give it 8.4 out of 10, honestly. It's definitely the worst in terms of overall quality, but in terms of execution of what the concept was about, I think it was actually pretty solid. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really curious to see what you guys think about this episode, so definitely make sure to comment down below. And yeah, before we end this video though, I just want to give a huge thanks to my 2 level 3 Patreons, Omari Bridgman and White Shadow Wolfie. If you want to join them, you can do that by going down in the description below and clicking on the link to my Patreon and subscribing to one of the tiers. It doesn't even have to be the same tier as them, which is for $5. There's the one that you'll probably be most willing to go for would be the level 1 tier, which is at $2, which is just for general support. You'll still get a thank you mention in my video, but there isn't really a benefit or a perk to that tier, because it's just for general support. And also for you Walking Dead fans, I don't really have anything to give as a perk on Patreon, because pretty much every single video that has relation to The Walking Dead that I do gets uploaded on YouTube. So at the best, maybe I could offer you early access, but even then I don't feel like early access is enough of a reason for you to subscribe to that. So maybe if you're willing to just support me, you can go over there, and if you don't want to, that's completely fine. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like, subscribe. Also check out the description to my Twitter if you want to follow me over there, and to my Wattpad where I post my stories, because in addition to doing all these videos on my channel, I'm also a writer. And if you don't enjoy my stories, or you simply enjoy my videos, you can head over to Patreon where you can pledge support and help get the channel going, help support me so I can keep writing stories you enjoy. But if you don't want to do it, that's completely fine. You can still help me out in other ways, like liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and especially sharing this video with somebody who you think might enjoy it. And I think it's pretty much it for this video, so hopefully I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye!